He was a painter, sculptor, draftsman, engineer, set designer, architect, musician, anatomist, naturalist, physicist, astronomer, cartographer, poet, and every single one of his works demonstrated a mind far ahead of its time. Can you guess who it is? It is none other than Leonardo da Vinci. If we were to hold a vote for the most beautiful person in history or the smartest in the world, controversy would surely erupt. But if we speak of the greatest creative scientist in history, Leonardo da Vinci would undoubtedly be the choice of the majority. Throughout recorded history, very few people can stand on equal footing with him in terms of creativity and mastery across so many fields. But was Leonardo born a genius? What was his life actually like? Welcome to Dark Origin. Today, let's explore the curious and extraordinary life of Leonardo da Vinci together, a glimpse into his childhood and youth. Leonardo da Vinci was the illegitimate son of Ser Piero, a wealthy notary in Florence. He was raised and educated in secret by a priest and an uncle in a small village near Florence. In the standard schools of that time, students were not allowed to write with their left hand and were forced to use their right. However, because he could not attend formal school, he was allowed the freedom to use his left hand, writing from right to left. Leonardo did not have the opportunity to learn Latin or Greek, so he could not read the major textbooks of the time, which were written in Latin. He often described himself as homo senza lettere, an unlettered man. Fortunately, it was precisely because of this that he remained uninfluenced and unpolluted by contemporary knowledge, which was full of superstition and error. Under the guidance of two mentors, he received an alternative form of education and used it to his advantage. At the age of 15, he began an apprenticeship at the famous workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio. He started working on commissions for churches and large-scale drawings in bronze and marble. During a collaboration with his master, the teenage Leonardo painted an angel so impressive that Verrocchio subsequently swore never to pick up a paintbrush again. Leonardo continued working at the art studio until 1477. Leonardo da Vinci's first famous work was created in 1473 when he was just 21 years old. This was one of the first landscape drawings to feature no religious symbols or human figures. Given the context of the Renaissance at that time, the drawing demonstrated Leonardo's courage in separating the church from the artistic and scientific aspects of life. Instead, the viewer sees a proportionately accurate scene of the Arno Valley with no elements distorted. This was a necessary development, as maps and landscapes at this time were often influenced by a God's eye view. Da Vinci showed that not everything requires a relationship with God or the church. The viewer of a landscape can stand in the role of an ordinary human being to record their own perspective. In his youth, Leonardo constantly faced economic difficulties. His 10 half-brothers and 2 half-sisters, Ser Piero's legitimate children, excluded him from the massive inheritance they received. In the difficult political context of contemporary Italy, with many small city-states often at odds and frequently at war with one another, Leonardo had to move from city to city. In 1482, Leonardo left Florence. He was given a position serving Ludovico Sforza after writing a letter of application. The content of that letter was as follows: Most illustrious Lord, having now sufficiently seen and considered the proofs of all those who count themselves masters and inventors of instruments of war, and finding that their invention and use of the said instruments does not differ in any respect from those in common practice, I will endeavor to explain myself to your excellency, showing your excellency my secrets, and after that offering them to your best pleasure and approbation, to work with effect at opportune moments on all those things which in part shall be briefly noted below. I have a type of bridge that is extremely light and strong, adapted to be most easily carried, and with them you may pursue and at any time flee from the enemy. And others, secure and indestructible by fire and battle, easy and convenient to lift and place. Also methods of burning and destroying those of the enemy. I know how, when a place is besieged, to take the water out of the trenches and make endless variety of bridges and covered ways and ladders and other machines pertaining to such expeditions. If, by reason of the height of the banks, or the strength of the place and its position, it is impossible when besieging a place to avail oneself of the plan of bombardment, I have methods for destroying every rock or other fortress, even if it were founded on a rock. Again, I have kinds of mortars, most convenient and easy to carry, and with these I can fling small stones almost resembling a storm, and with the smoke of these cause great terror to the enemy, to his great detriment and confusion. And if the fight should be at sea, I have many kinds of machines most efficient for offense and defense, and vessels which will resist the attack of the largest guns and powder and fumes. In reality, precisely because Leonardo declared himself a superior master, he was given the requested position. He remained an artist in Milan for 18 years, painting many portraits and decorating for banquets in the palace. His passion for complex mechanical mechanisms became increasingly intense. He studied physics, biology, and mathematics for long periods, applying his new knowledge to his tasks as an engineer. However, Leonardo's interests were so broad that he often left projects unfinished. One of these, which cannot be overlooked, is his anatomical research, work that was truly ahead of its time. Leonardo da Vinci, the man of science. When Leonardo da Vinci passed away on May 2, 1519, his notes and anatomical sketches were bequeathed to his loyal friend Francesco Melzi, who guarded them as his most precious possessions while he lived. Unfortunately, this respect was not passed down to Melzi's heirs. Many of Leonardo's anatomical studies drifted from person to person, from country to country, with no one understanding their true value. We will never know where these works vanished in the river of time. However, from what remains, we know for certain that Leonardo began performing dissections when he was about 37 years old at the Santa Maria Nuova Hospital in Florence, where he served the ruling lord. He continued this in Rome when he was 61, until Pope Leo X banned the practice. It is estimated that he dissected more than 30 bodies of men and women of various ages, as well as numerous animal species. His anatomical works far exceeded the requirements of artistic anatomy. He paid more attention to internal organs than even Vesalius or other anatomists of the time. What interest would an artist have in the ventricles of the brain, the structure of the heart, or the pathways of major nerves and blood vessels? His immense love for anatomical and physiological research drove him to continue this work in secret for many years, often under poor lighting and facing numerous difficulties, yet he achieved incredible results. He was the first to describe the uterus as a single-chambered organ, accurately depicted the human skeleton, experimented on the heart and blood vessels, used wax injections to cast the shape of the brain's ventricles, and attempted to reconstruct muscles and joints. However, even though Leonardo achieved great success in correctly understanding the human body, his work was destined to have no influence on the development of anatomy and medicine. This was because it remained unknown to the wider world until many generations had passed, and even then, it was studied only through fragmented notes. Leonardo researchers point out that his work in other sciences was as useless to his contemporaries as his work in anatomy. Throughout his research life, beyond dissecting human bodies, he also explored the structures of beasts, birds, and fish. He studied the problem of aviation for many years through the dissection of birds, declaring that a flying device must be constructed like the body of a bird to balance itself and move through the air like a large avian creature. Yet, his studies were unknown to subsequent generations, and it would take another 400 years before the first airplane could take off. Leonardo da Vinci, the thinker and inspirational figure of the age. From the 15th century onwards, European artists yearned to be recognized as intellectuals on par with writers, mathematicians, philosophers, and astrologers. Leonardo was the first to truly succeed in this, and was perhaps the first artist to become a celebrity across Europe. He was aggressively courted by kings and rulers, treated like a prince of philosophy with his own assistants and servants. Even when he was not included in the great works of Renaissance Rome, he felt no bitterness. Instead, he moved to France to receive a massive pension and live in a chateau. Although he was sometimes overly ambitious regarding the technical capabilities of his era, his works and influence bear no trace of resentment, wounded pride, offended sensitivity, self-righteous boasting, or other expressions of egoism often found in other artists and craftsmen. In his search for the truth, the good, and the beautiful of the world, Leonardo defined himself through the practice of painting and sculpture, even though the majority of his recovered works remain in an unfinished state. He sought to erase his personal style from his works to reach the universal. Ironically, in the process of creating a style intended to eliminate the artist's ego and individualism, despite trying to make himself invisible, Leonardo created works that became icons of art. Leonardo's universality came not so much from formal education, but from how he fashioned himself, embracing the world he approached through the complex artistic culture of the Renaissance. However, his life was not one of asceticism, but a brilliant ascent from a peasant's table to the banquet halls of rulers. The social spirit that pervaded the Renaissance required that to become a perfect court artist, Leonardo had to understand the royal world and skillfully fit himself into its framework. He integrated so well that he helped Castiglione build the image of the perfect Renaissance courtier. What he achieved by molding himself into the ideals of the age, Leonardo also did in painting by presenting the technique of sfumato. This is the technique used to create soft, seamless transitions between colors and tones. Take light and shadow, for instance. The sfumato technique allows the boundary between two areas of color to blur naturally. This technique is particularly effective in creating atmospheric effects and smooth transitions from light to dark in skin tones. According to art historian Giorgio Vasari, this technique was originally found in the works of Flemish painters like Jan van Eyck and Rogier van der Weyden. However, it was during the Renaissance that Leonardo truly defined the concept of sfumato, elevating and developing the technique. He employed it in almost all his paintings, culminating in the masterpiece that is the Mona Lisa. Among Leonardo's few masterpieces, the Mona Lisa is arguably the most famous and most studied. The Mona Lisa is not merely a painting, it is a phenomenon, and perhaps Leonardo's greatest achievement in reinventing Renaissance art. Before the Mona Lisa became a legend, however, it was simply a portrait. The sitter is believed to be Lisa Gherardini, the wife of a Florentine silk merchant named Francesco del Giocondo. It is curious that Leonardo accepted a commission from a member of the urban middle class while ignoring requests from Isabella d'Este, one of the wealthiest art patrons of the time. There is no official record confirming that Francesco commissioned the painting. However, evidence from around 1503 confirms that Leonardo was working on the portrait at that time, though he had only completed the initial stages. The portrait was never delivered to the Giocondo family. As many scholars have observed, the mysterious Mona Lisa embodies the harmony between humanity and the natural world. Leonardo explained this concept of the human connection to nature in his writings. Since man is composed of earth, water, air, and fire, his body resembles that of the earth. Just as man has bones to support his flesh and muscles, the world has rocks for support. Just as man has a pool of blood within him and lungs that rise and fall with breath, so the body of the earth has its ocean tides that rise and fall every 6 hours. And just as the veins branch out from that pool of blood to serve the human body, so too do the infinite waters of the ocean fill the body of the earth. Another unique detail Leonardo incorporated into the Mona Lisa is the suggestion that she is pregnant. This serves as a metaphor, likening the mother to Mother Nature herself. Beyond his public expression of the human ideals of his time, Leonardo lived an unusually independent life, successfully guarding his privacy and intellectual autonomy from external influence. This contrast between Leonardo's private and public life has inspired many later artists, from Madonna to Lady Gaga. However, unlike modern celebrities who often shoulder the burden of social justice and pressure those in power, Leonardo did not display an attitude of political dissent or rebellion. Ever since Sigmund Freud's book on Leonardo, in which Freud suggested that Leonardo exhibited atypical sexual behavior, scholars have examined him through the lens of sexuality. Yet, unlike Michelangelo, who was obsessed with the male form, Leonardo's notes and observations remained highly realistic, theoretical, and scientifically dense. While repressed desires may have been a driving force behind Michelangelo's art, they appear to be only minor factors in Leonardo's work. Like many of his contemporaries, Leonardo da Vinci was a multimedia artist. His life and career expanded beyond the flat surface of painting into the natural world, which he used as a laboratory to experiment with building machines, digging canals, diverting rivers, commanding armies, and destroying fortresses. His concept of using the world itself as a medium for artistic expression has profoundly influenced the art, politics, science, and thought of the 20th and 21st centuries. In the 16th century, neurology and environmental issues had not yet emerged, but Leonardo's thinking about the world still holds immense value today. Most importantly, he understood that human consciousness is not separate from nature, but is, in fact, nature's essence within us. We hope you enjoyed this video on Dark Origin. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.